Janitor signed to help a deaf visitor, not knowing the Billionaire CEO was watching from the balcony. Miguel Alvarez had learned long ago that people rarely looked down. In the corporate towers where he worked, men and women in tailored suits walked quickly with their eyes fixed on phone screens or the polished elevator doors, not on the man pushing a mop across the marble floor. To them, Miguel was just background scenery, part of the building's quiet rhythm, like the faint hum of the air conditioning or the soft trickle of the fountain in the lobby. And honestly, Miguel didn't mind. He had spent years blending into corners, living in silence that felt safer than being noticed. At 52, his back ached after long shifts, and his hands carried the rough calluses of someone who had cleaned up other people's messes for a lifetime. Yet there was peace in his work, the shine of freshly scrubbed marble, the quiet whistle of his own breath at night when the building emptied, the invisible dignity of doing a job well, even when no one cared. But that Tuesday morning was different. As Miguel leaned on his mop, wringing out the cloth with practiced ease, the lobby doors swung open, the sharp September air rushed in, and with it came a man clutching a slim folder to his chest. He looked younger than Miguel had expected, in maybe late 20s, with neatly combed hair and eyes that seemed restless. His steps faltered halfway across the lobby. Miguel noticed the man's hands first, small, careful gestures in the air, hesitant, almost apologetic. Miguel froze. He recognized the motions. The man was deaf. Miguel's chest tightened. 1,000 memories stirred at the soundless laughter of his younger sister, Sophia, who had been born deaf. Their secret world of fluttering hands and private jokes. The long hours Miguel had spent as a boy learning American Sign Language just to be closer to her. She had passed away in her teens after an illness, but the language of her hands had never left him. He just hadn't used it in years. Now, in this towering lobby of glass and steel, it all came rushing back. The man approached the reception desk. The receptionist didn't even look up at first, juggling 2 phone calls and typing furiously. When she finally did, her brows furrowed in confusion as the visitor signed slowly, trying to explain. She shook her head, waved dismissively, and pointed toward the phone on the desk as if that would solve anything. The man tried again, his movements pleading, urgent, but he was met with blank stares. Other employees walked past without slowing down. Suits, briefcases, polished shoes. No one noticed, or perhaps no one wanted to. Miguel felt his hand tighten around the mop handle. Something inside him, something old and tender, pushed him forward. He set the mop aside, wiped his hands on his faded uniform, and approached. "Excuse me," he said quietly. The receptionist gave him a look, the kind that said stay in your lane, but Miguel ignored it. He lifted his hands, unsure if his fingers would remember the language after so long. But they did, awkwardly at first, then more smoothly. Miguel began to sign. "Can I help you?" The young man's face transformed. His shoulders sagged with relief. His eyes lit up with gratitude so raw it nearly broke Miguel's heart. They signed quickly, Miguel rusty but managing. The visitor explained he was here for an important meeting, but he was nervous and had gotten lost trying to find the correct floor. He was terrified of being late. Miguel smiled, nodded, and pointed toward the elevator. With steady hands, he signed, "Don't worry, I'll take you there." The man pressed the folder into Miguel's hands with a silent thank you. Together, they walked across the lobby, Miguel chatting clumsily in signs about the weather, about the building, about nothing in particular, just enough to ease the man's nerves. The visitor laughed silently, his body loosening with each exchange. For Miguel, it felt like a ghost had stepped beside him. For a fleeting moment, it was as if Sophia was there again, her laughter filling the air, her hands fluttering in conversation only the two of them could understand. Neither man noticed the figure standing quietly above them. From the mezzanine balcony, Eleanor Quinn, CEO of Quinn Enterprises, leaned against the railing with her coffee. She had been preparing for another long day: investor calls, board meetings, performance reviews. Her mornings were usually calculated, efficient, cold. But this morning, something had made her pause. She had noticed the janitor. At first, it puzzled her. Why would a janitor step into a situation that clearly wasn't his responsibility? Why risk the scolding glance of the receptionist or the judgment of others? Yet Eleanor watched as Miguel's hands moved with care, As his posture softened, as he made space for someone the rest of the lobby had dismissed, it stirred something in her just a faint, uncomfortable ache she hadn't felt in years. Eleanor had built her empire on precision, ruthlessness, and control. People called her sharp, some called her untouchable. But beneath that armor, long buried, she remembered being a little girl who used to help her mother translate for an elderly neighbor who spoke no English. She remembered what it felt like to give without being asked. Somewhere along the way, she had traded that softness for steel. Now, watching the janitor gently guide a nervous stranger to the elevator, Eleanor felt a memory she couldn't shake: humanity at its purest. That afternoon, Miguel's supervisor found him scrubbing the restroom sink. "The CEO wants to see you." Now, Miguel's heart dropped. His first thought was that he had done something wrong. Maybe he had overstepped. Maybe helping that visitor had broken some rule. With trembling hands, he removed his cap and made his way upstairs. He entered the executive office like a man entering a cathedral, careful, nervous, small. And there she was, Eleanor Quinn herself, seated behind a sleek desk of dark wood and glass. "Miss Quinn," he stammered, clutching his cap. "If I did something wrong." "You didn't." Her voice was calm but carried weight. She rose and walked toward him, her heels clicking softly against the floor. "I saw what you did this morning," she said. Her eyes, usually described as icy in business magazines, seemed strangely warm. "You put down your mop to help someone no one else would. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask what it would cost you. You just chose kindness." Miguel shifted uneasily. "It was nothing. A broken bar. I just knew how to help." "That's exactly it," Eleanor replied. She paused, studying him as though he were the most important meeting of her day. "Do you know how rare that is? To act when it's not your job. To remember that humanity lives in the smallest acts. That true leadership is service." Miguel's throat tightened. He wasn't used to being noticed, let alone praised. Eleanor's voice softened. "I want people like you in this company, and not just cleaning its floors, but shaping its culture. From today forward, you're no longer a janitor. I'm transferring you to our community outreach division. You'll lead accessibility training, work on programs for inclusion, full salary, full benefits. We need your heart at the center of this place." Miguel's mouth opened, but no words came. His eyes blurred with tears. "About a broken bar. I'm just You're exactly what we need," she said gently, cutting him off. Miguel lowered his head, unable to stop the tears that spilled onto his hands. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a shadow, not as invisible, but as a man whose compassion had the power to move even the most untouchable hearts. And somewhere deep inside, Miguel knew Sophia would be smiling. That evening, Miguel walked out of the building carrying more than his mop and cleaning cart. He carried the weight of possibility, the warmth of recognition, the reminder that kindness could never go unseen. Because sometimes the world doesn't shift through billion-dollar deals or polished speeches. Sometimes it changes because one man puts down his broom, lifts his hands, and chooses compassion when no one else does. And when kindness is chosen, the world always notices, even from the balcony above.